Have you ever noticed that people who criticize you the most often reveal more about themselves than about you? The ones who call you insecure seem deeply threatened. The ones who accuse you of arrogance quietly crave status. And the ones who constantly point out flaws rarely confront their own, according to Carl Jung. This isn't random, it's projection. And it's one of the most powerful psychological forces shaping human behavior. Most people believe they see others clearly. They think their judgments are objective, fair, rational. But in reality, human perception is deeply distorted. We don't just see other people, we see reflections of ourselves. When someone reacts strongly to a trait, arrogance, weakness, insecurity, selfishness, it often isn't the trait itself that triggers them. It's recognition. Something inside them feels exposed, and instead of confronting that discomfort internally, the mind does something clever. It moves the trait outward. It assigns it to someone else. This is projection, a defense mechanism that protects the ego from facing what it doesn't want to admit. The more someone insists, "I am not like that," the more likely it lives in their shadow. And when they meet someone who openly shows that trait, the reaction is immediate. Not because the trait is wrong, but because it exposes what they deny in themselves. Carl Jung believed every person carries something he called the shadow. It is not evil. It is simply the parts of you that you reject. The traits you were taught were unacceptable. The impulses you were told were wrong. The emotions you decided were unsafe to show. Anger, envy, neediness, arrogance, even ambition. Instead of integrating these traits, most people bury them. They build an identity around who they believe they are: calm, kind, rational. And anything that contradicts that identity gets pushed out of awareness. But repression does not eliminate a trait, it hides it. And what is hidden does not disappear. It waits. The shadow influences behavior indirectly, through emotional reactions, exaggerated criticism, and sudden hostility. Most people think they know who they are. They don't. They know who they present. Jung called this the persona, the social mask, the version of you designed to be accepted. The persona is not fake, it is functional. But when you over-identify with it, everything that contradicts it gets buried. That buried material becomes the shadow. If you see yourself as kind, your aggression goes underground. If you see yourself as rational, your emotions get suppressed. If you see yourself as moral, your darker impulses hide. And what is buried does not disappear. It waits, it builds pressure, and eventually it leaks. Sometimes as anger, sometimes as envy, sometimes as moral outrage, but rarely in a way that feels voluntary. This is why people say, "I don't know what came over me." Something did. You just refused to meet it earlier. Think about the person who constantly calls others insecure. Notice how often they need validation. Or the person obsessed with labeling others arrogant. Pay attention to how badly they want recognition. Projection is rarely subtle. It's emotional. It carries charge. The reaction is disproportionate to the situation. That intensity is the clue. Calm observation exposes it. The jealous friend who criticizes your ambition may be suppressing their own. The moral person who constantly condemns others may be fighting impulses they refuse to admit. Look at social media. Outrage spreads faster than understanding. People attack strangers with intensity, over things that barely affect them. Projection thrives in environments where self-reflection is optional. It is easier to condemn than to examine. When a person reacts with extreme certainty, it often hides extreme insecurity. The louder the moral attack, the deeper the internal conflict. Most people fear their shadow, not because it is evil, but because it threatens their identity. If you see yourself as good, admitting envy feels dangerous. If you see yourself as strong, admitting insecurity feels humiliating. If you see yourself as disciplined, admitting resentment feels destabilizing. So the mind protects the image and sacrifices the truth. But the cost is fragmentation. You become divided, one part performing, another part waiting in the dark. The more divided you are, the easier you are to trigger, the easier you are to control, because what you deny controls you. You do not defeat the shadow, you integrate it. What you suppress will control you. What you face becomes usable. Power is not purity, it is awareness. The moment you notice projection, pause, ask, what in me does this reflect? Not to judge yourself, but to reclaim yourself. Every irritation is information. Every strong reaction is a mirror. The people you dislike most often carry traits you refuse to own. According to Jung, the shadow is not evil. It is undeveloped strength. Aggression can become boundaries. Envy can become ambition. Control can become discipline. But only if you see it. Only if you stop pretending. Only if you are willing to be uncomfortable. Most people spend their lives correcting others. Few have the courage to examine themselves. That is the difference between weakness and psychological authority. When you integrate your shadow, you become harder to provoke, harder to manipulate, harder to destabilize, because you already know what lives inside you. And when you know yourself fully, no one can weaponize you against yourself. That is real power, quiet, controlled, final.